We learned a lot about classes and arrow functions. Let's now turn our heads towards new operators we'll be able to use in the future of JavaScript and we already can use today in our React project, the spread and the rest operators. Actually, it's only one operator, 3 dots. And yes, this may look strange, but the operator is just 3 dots. Now, if we call it spread or rest depends on where we use it. The spread operator is used to split up array elements or object properties. So we spread up an array or object. For example, if we have an old array and we want to add all the elements from that old array to a new array and additionally add a 1 and a 2 element, this first syntax would be what we use. 3 dots in front of old array will simply pull out all the elements and add it to the new array, which we create with the square brackets. And also, of course, then we can add more elements to it, since we just used the normal syntax with square brackets to create an array. The same for the object. We create a new object with curly braces, with the new prop, but then we also have ... old object to pull out all the properties of the old object and their values, and add them as key value pairs to the new object. As a side note, if the old object also had a new property, it would be overwritten by new prop 5 here. So our own property takes precedence. This is the spread operator. Now, the rest operator is the same operator but used differently. Here it's used to merge a list of function arguments into an array. And this shows us where we use it. We use it in a function argument list. Here's an example. Sort args receives an unlimited amount of arguments, so 1 argument, 2, 3, or whatever. With ... we only write 1 argument, args, but we may actually receive more than 1, and they will all be merged together into an array. So then we can apply array methods to our argument list or do whatever we want to do with our conveniently stored arguments. Let's have a look at both usages on JSBin then. So let's start with the spread operator. I'll create an array of numbers. So 1, 2, 3, add as many as you want. Now I want to create a new array, new numbers. And as you saw, spread is now simply used by adding 3 dots, then the old array numbers, and then potentially, you don't have to do that, new numbers, like 4. And again, that is optional. With that, if I now console log new numbers here, and I hit run, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, the old array with all its elements and the new element. And actually we don't add the old element. If we were to do that without the dots, it would be included as 1 element inside the new element. It really pulled out the old elements, as you can clearly see. So that's the spread operator. And you will see me use this throughout this course a couple of times on both arrays and objects to, for example, conveniently copy arrays or add properties to an object whilst safely copying that old object. Again, I will obviously also always mention why I'm using that operator when I do in the course. Just be aware that it exists. Let's now see the same for objects. I'll create a person object here, where I have a name, let's say Max. And now I will have a new person object, which is a JavaScript object, a new one, where I first of all use the spread operator on person to copy all the property value pairs of the old object, and potentially, and that's also optional, add a new property. And now if I console log new person, you may ignore this error, which is thrown by JSBin. The syntax will be supported in our course project. If we do this, you see object is printed here with name Max at age 28. So it's taking the old person and distributing it into the new person. That's the spread operator. Now the rest operator, which is used less often though, is used in a function. And you could of course also use a ES6 arrow function. So there we could have a filter function, whatever you want to name it. And we get a couple of args, and you don't have to use args here. You can also name this A or whatever you want, but you have to use the 3 dots in front of it. So then there you can simply return, and we could use the inline syntax here to write it all in one line without the return keyword. Here I'll use return. You could return args, and then let's say we call the built-in filter method, which is available on arrays. And keep in mind, the dots here are used as a REST operator, and that merges the arguments into an array, so we can use array methods like filter. Filter will execute a function on every element in the passed in array. So here we would get our element, and then we could use an inline arrow function to simply say return true or false, which filter expects, if the element is equal to 1. Now that might be a lot of syntax you don't know. Free equal signs checks for type and value equality, so that L also has to be a number. And this is just an arrow function we pass to the built-in filter method. So this has nothing to do with rest or spread. With that, we could call filter, and let's console log it to see something. Console log filter, so our filter function here, on let's say 1, 2, 3. And actually, we should only log 1 here, as an array though, because we filtered this array, which is created with the rest operator with the 3 dots here. So that's rest and spread. Again, spread is the usage of the 3 dots you'll see more often in this course.